Why would you want to get married to somebody you already know you cannot trust? They never mention that you should be very careful when you meet a woman that looks like she loves you. She doesn't necessarily mean love you. Okay, when you meet somebody that looks like they're loving you and they're doing all these good things for you, showing up for you, being kind to you and all that stuff doesn't necessarily mean they love you for real. I was watching a video a couple of days ago where a woman says, before you get married, make sure you sign the marital contract. Before you get married traditionally, because in Africa people have traditional marriage. There's many names for that. Some people call it bride price. Some people call it lobola. Some people call it lob. Some people call it dot. So the way it works is you basically have to go to the woman's family, bring gifts and symbolic things that the family asks for. Sometimes money, sometimes cows before you get married. So in that country, I think it was South Africa lady on a video saying, before you get married, traditionally, make sure you sign a contract which is a contract on marriage without a community of property. Okay, separate goods, marriage without community of property. Make sure you sign it, because by the time you get married traditionally, it means you already are married. So you are bound into a contract. And I was very pissed off when I saw her. She was telling the truth. Was she? Yes. She was telling the truth, because a lot of people have to protect themselves because they're marrying people that are ghosts. They're not looking to be married. They're just looking for the experience and opportunity to divorce you so they can take half of the things that you have.
Marriage contracts before the lobola negotiations. Now, the reason why I keep saying that is because if your intention is to be married out of community of property and you have your negotiations before the contract is signed, you will already find yourself being married in community of property under customary law. You don't have to have paid lobola in full in order for a conclusion of a customary marriage to be valid. And most importantly, you don't have to have registered the customary marriage at Home Affairs in order for it to be valid. So an unregistered customary marriage is valid, and the correct way to then terminate that marriage is to obtain a decree of divorce from court. So in order to not be in a big mess of being married in community of property, you want to ensure that your marriage contract is signed before your lobola negotiations. In the caption, I have written the 3 requirements that need to be met in order to satisfy the requirements of a customary marriage. So read up on those, and if you are in a customary marriage and have walked away from that relationship, the correct way to actually terminate the marriage is by obtaining a decree of divorce from court.
Why would you want to get married to somebody you already know you cannot trust? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to get married to somebody you already know you shouldn't trust? So I'm going to make you sign a piece of paper before we even do the traditional wedding. Then continue with you so we can do the white wedding. For my American brothers, in Africa, we generally have 2 weddings. Okay? Now, the first wedding is when my family brings the gifts to your family. The gift that your family asks for. Bride price. Could be cows, could be gold, could be money, could be many things. We are officially married when they receive that. The second wedding is the white wedding, which is when we go to church. Dun, 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 dun. That's when many people feel like they get married. Not generally in Africa. I know it varies from here and there, but that is the general consensus. Now, this lady is saying before you do the first wedding, which is the traditional wedding, you need to sign a contract. Sign a marital contract, which is whether you want to get married in community of property or without property. Why would you want to get married to somebody and sign a contract? It's pissed me off because I didn't grow up like that. I knew your wife is forever. You get married to somebody until you die. You don't get married to somebody until it doesn't work anymore. You start fighting with one another, then you decide to leave. I know some people beat on their wives. It's crazy. But when I grew up, I never saw that. There wasn't many of those cases. It was 1 in a million. And even though they were through those situations, which I do not necessarily advocate for, the woman was very strong trying to still make it work. And I remember one story specifically where the man changed eventually. And I'm not saying you should stay in such situation. What I'm saying is the world has changed. People are not the same anymore. And why would I want to get married to somebody I don't trust? I don't want to be married to somebody I need to sign out of community or property with. It's a lie. Let's just remain girlfriend and boyfriend. I mean, let's just be honest with each other. I mean, I don't trust you. So I trust you to make you my wife, but I don't trust you enough to make you my wife and not sign a piece of paper. No, let's just remain boyfriend and girlfriend. Now, I have a story that's very interesting, okay? And I think this should make us think. Two friends in America with their other friends, they were like 8 people. They came together and discussed. They had a handshake saying, we all gonna play the lotto or the Powerball, okay? If one of us win the Powerball, we're going to share the prize. So all of us will be playing. They started playing in 1992. When they all played, they say, if ever one of us won the lotto, we're going to share the money. Longtime friends, Joe Franey and Tom Cook made a pact in 1992, sealed with a handshake. That's if one of them won the USA Powerball lottery, they will share it. Nearly 30 years later, the numbers came up for Tom, and he honored the deal. My brother, $22 million. Imagine, you get $22 million, 30 years of a promise with somebody, and you still honored it. You call your friend, you say, my buddy, I just won $22 million, and I am looking to share it 50% with you.
We said whenever the big winner comes, we're going to split it. So we buy every week and, not really thinking it would happen.
That happened many years ago. It's just kind of continued. And
almost 20, I think.
Handshake's a handshake, man.
What level of loyalty and decency you need to have to do that? It's clear that the world has changed, my brothers. Things are not the same anymore. Quality of 22 million. I mean, I can just imagine. I mean, you win the lottery, $22 million. You probably call your wife, right? Hey, baby, I won. How much? 22. Hey, oh my God, our life's gonna change. Then you're probably gonna tell your wife, I have a friend of mine. His name is Joe. We made a promise to each other that if ever one of us won, we're gonna share off and off. What do you think the woman will say? No, what do you think the woman will say? Are you crazy? You don't have to tell him. You don't owe him anything. Did you sign a piece of paper? No, we didn't. It was a handshake. No, let's be honest. You can't do this. Imagine we can set our life for the rest of our... Yeah. Who do you listen to? Your wife, who sleeps next to you every single night and makes you feel good? Or your conscience? Based on a handshake. That is brotherhood. That's the kind of friendship that I heard from my parents. That's the kind of friendship you don't see anymore today. It takes another level of a human being to resist your wife. I bet you, even though you can see on the video, the wives are smiling at each other, I bet you that she, or at least one of them, was like, you can't do that. It's been 30 years. It was just a joke. You were drunk, you remember? You were dizzy, you don't even, you know what I mean? All excuses, like, hey, you don't have to do this. You can just tell him, I was playing. Or you can just give him 5 million. How about 5 million? Oh, okay, how about 7 million? You don't have to share 50%. That's another caliber of manhood and human being. It's very sad that today, unfortunately, we don't see this anymore. And I think we need to talk about this. It's sad that people have to get married and sign a piece of paper. Why would you sign a piece of paper to marry somebody? Why is that necessary? Why do you gonna get married to somebody you need to sign a piece of paper for? Why don't you just remain single? Remain single, have babies, an agreement from distance. Like, why would you want to sit in a house why? Like, isn't marriage supposed to be an adventure where you don't know what's gonna happen, but you're in it together? I think the goal of marriage is the fact that you don't know what's going to happen, but it doesn't matter how you feel. I'm gonna go to the next room, I'm gonna sit down, and I'm gonna see you in 6 hours, and we're going to have dinner together. I think that is marriage. It doesn't really matter how hard it is. I'm gonna find it in my heart to talk to you with love, even though I'm very upset with what you just did. I think that's what's supposed to be marriage. Not, okay, well, now things are different. I need to be very careful. I got my house, I got my car, I'm not gonna lose it. Why do you get married? Don't get married until you find somebody that you can trust to that level. Why do you get married? Why would you have children? Like, I don't get it. Either marriage is a lie, people should get rid of it completely, Either the people that you meet are really completely lies. Okay, fellas, that's very interesting. There's another story here that's very, very inspiring. I think it's very interesting as well. Now, there is a lady, okay? Imagine, this is crazy, man. Imagine, have you ever heard stories of somebody that was unalived, then all of a sudden he wakes up? You know, just imagine how scary that would be. I mean, there's a story here that's very inspiring, okay? And that's happened many, many years ago. There is a lady named Essie Dunbar, an American woman. She was declared unalive in South Carolina. Now, when she was unalive, people were watching and they were calling for people, you know, relative to come and see her. Unfortunately, her sister was not present. Then they decided to bury the lady because clearly the sister taking long because she lived in another state. Everything was set. The singers were present. The pastor was present. Everybody was waiting for the moment. They downed the casket to the hole, waiting for the final moment. All of a sudden, her sister arrived. When the sister arrived, she said, please, give me an opportunity. Please open the casket. I just want to see her for the very last time. They lift the casket and they open the casket. When they opened the casket, to the shock of everybody, Essie Dunbar opened her eyes and smiled. Just imagine that scene. People were running all over the place. The pastor, the priest even fell into the hole. People were running left, right, center. It was mayhem. I mean, just imagine, we're here to bury somebody. And all of a sudden, after lifting the casket for her sister to see her for the very last time, she sits up and smiles. How shocking is that? That's not just shocking, but an amazing story. She went up to live 40 years more after that. Such an amazing story. I'm just thinking, like, in Africa, nobody will speak to you anymore. You died. You died and you came back to life. No one will speak to you ever again. People will avoid you in the street. I know a story like that somewhere in East Africa. People avoided that. They avoided her completely. Even when she went to buy things at the shops, the shopper or whoever, they will run away. It was just insane and crazy. I know there's a lot of ignorance about that, but that's what it is. And this is real story, brothers. You know, you can double check that on Google if you like. It's very interesting to see a story like this. It's such a mystery. You know, you were unalived. Was she really unalived? Or maybe back in time, since it's happened many years ago, she maybe was in a coma and they couldn't diagnose it properly, misdiagnose, and they thought she was dead. That's a possibility. Was she really unalive and God gave her another opportunity? Well, that's a possibility too. Let me know how you feel about this. For the first story, you know, friendship, which is honorable, relationships that are bounded by solid words. I mean, I'm one of those people that believe my word should be more important than a signature. I'm one of those guys. If I say I'm going to do it. I don't care what's happened. You know, I don't care whether it's rain. If I promised you something, whether we've fallen out, well, unless you insulted my mother or something. Yeah. But if we've fallen out and I promise to pay school fees for your little brother because you cannot do it, I am going to do it because that was my word. Especially if the little boy is involved already. I just don't see how people can live in a society where you have to sign a piece of paper before you get married to somebody. Well, if in America, that's the way. Come to Africa. I mean, well, I know in South Africa, it's also, I saw South African women saying you need to sign a piece. Go find a woman in Uganda, you're probably going to be fine. God bless.